The rain was falling hard over Virginia Beach that morning, tapping against the windows of a quiet coffee shop where a man named Jack Moran sat alone, stirring his coffee without drinking it. He looked like a man who'd seen too much and said too little, broad shoulders, faded tattoos, and eyes that carried both stories and silence. Jack was a single dad, a veteran trying to make life normal again. He'd served 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Now he spent his mornings driving his daughter Emma to school before heading to his job at the shipyard. Life was simple. Hard but simple. That day, he was waiting for a call that could change everything. A job interview at the naval base for a logistics position. It wasn't glamorous, but it meant health insurance for Emma and a steady paycheck. He adjusted his worn jacket and walked toward the base office, past the flags fluttering in the cold wind. Inside, a small group of candidates waited. Most wore crisp suits. Jack wore his best shirt, the one Emma ironed that morning, carefully folding the collar the way she'd seen on YouTube. Moments later, the door opened. In walked Admiral Richard Steele, a legend among Navy SEALs, decorated, respected, and known for being as sharp with his words as he was with his tactics. The room snapped to attention, even though none of the men there were in uniform. The Admiral smiled thinly. "Gentlemen, we'll start with introductions. Name, rank, and just for fun, your old call sign if you had one." A few men chuckled. It was meant to break the ice. Each candidate stood up introducing themselves, some proudly, some nervously. Then it was Jack's turn. He stood slowly. Jack Moran, Staff Sergeant, U.S. Army, call sign Iron Ghost. The room went still. The Admiral's smirk faded like a shadow under a floodlight. His eyes flicked to Jack, narrowing in disbelief. "Iron Ghost," he repeated quietly, as if saying a ghost's name aloud. Jack nodded once. "Yes, sir." The Admiral leaned forward. "You served in Kandahar, 2010? Jack hesitated. "Yes, sir. You were—" "I was there," Steele interrupted. His tone changed, no longer playful, but heavy with memory. "You're that Iron Ghost." The other candidates glanced around, confused. Admiral Steele took a slow breath. "There was an APA joint rescue. My SEAL team got pinned down during an ambush. A ghost unit covered our retreat. One man held the line for almost 20 minutes so our medic could carry out a wounded man. That man saved 6 lives. The reports said he vanished afterward. We thought he'd been killed." Jack lowered his gaze. "Didn't vanish, sir. Got pulled out next morning. Never made it to the debrief." The room was silent. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seemed to fade. The Admiral walked around the table, eyes never leaving Jack. "You're telling me you were that soldier, the one they called Iron Ghost, because you kept firing even after the comms went dead?" Jack gave a tired smile. "Guess I was just too stubborn to stop." For a long moment the Admiral said nothing. Then, to everyone's shock, he snapped to attention and saluted. Jack blinked. "Taken aback, sir, you don't have to." "I do," Steele said firmly. "You saved my men. You saved me." The air shifted. It wasn't a job interview anymore. It was a moment of recognition, long overdue. When the Admiral spoke again, his voice was softer. "You're a single father now." "Yes, sir. My wife passed 2 years ago. Just me and my little girl." The Admiral's eyes softened. "How old is she?" "Eat, loves painting. Thinks I'm a superhero." Jack chuckled quietly. "I don't tell her otherwise." Admiral Steele smiled faintly. "You are one." He looked at the other candidates. "Gentlemen, the interview's over. The position's filled." Oh, Jack frowned. "Sir, I didn't mean to." Steele raised a hand. "You earned this years ago, Iron Ghost. You just didn't know it." Jack stood speechless as the Admiral shook his hand. Before he left, Steele placed a small Navy SEAL Challenge coin on the table. "That's not for your service," he said. "That's for your daughter. To remind her who her father really is." 2 weeks later, Jack walked Emma to the school bus. She clutched the coin in her tiny hand like a treasure. "Daddy, are you really Iron Ghost?" Jack smiled. "Maybe. But you know what's more important than that?" She shook her head. "That I came home for you." She hugged him tight. "You're my hero." As the bus drove away, Jack looked at the morning sky, bright, clean, and alive with promise. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a ghost anymore. He felt seen. He felt whole. And somewhere deep down, so did the Admiral who never forgot the man who'd saved him. Because sometimes the greatest acts of heroism aren't written in history books. They live quietly, in the hearts of those who remember. The morning sun broke through the clouds as Jack stood outside the naval base gates, the new ID badge glinting in his hand. For years, he had walked through those same gates as a soldier. Now he walked in as something even more powerful, a father with a second chance. The job wasn't glamorous, paperwork, logistics, supply management. But to Jack, it meant the world. It meant routine, stability, hope, and maybe, just maybe, peace. A few days into his new role, he heard the familiar rumble of boots down the hallway. Admiral Steele walked in, his usual commanding presence softened by something almost human. "Morning, Ghost," he greeted. Jack chuckled. "Haven't heard that in a while." "Get used to it," the Admiral said. "Around here, legends don't fade." They shared a smile. It wasn't about rank anymore. It was about respect. Over the next few months, the two men grew closer. The Admiral, once a symbol of unreachable authority, became something Jack hadn't had in years, a mentor. He helped Jack navigate the civilian side of service, guided him through red tape, and even visited Emma's art fair one afternoon, showing up in full uniform just to surprise her. The moment Emma saw him, she gasped,
"You're the Admiral!"
"And you," Steele said, kneeling down to her level. "You're the daughter of Iron Ghost, the bravest man I've ever known." Emma grinned. "He still burns toast." And Jack laughed, shaking his head. "Thanks, kiddo." The crowd chuckled, but in that laughter, something profound lived, a soldier rediscovering joy, a little girl learning what pride really means, and a hardened admiral remembering why humanity mattered more than hierarchy. A few weeks later, tragedy struck the town. A storm stronger than anything in decades hit the coast. Floodwaters rose fast, swallowing cars, homes, and streets. The base went into emergency response. Jack, though technically off duty, rushed to volunteer. He remembered the chaos of war, but this was different. This time, he wasn't fighting for a flag. He was fighting for neighbors, families, for Emma's future. The Admiral saw him pulling gear into a rescue boat and called out, "Jack, you're not required to be out there." Jack shouted back over the wind, "Neither were you that night in Kandahar, sir." Steele froze, then smiled knowingly. "Iron Ghost reporting for duty, huh?" Jack grinned. Once a ghost, always a ghost. They pushed into the raging current together. Hours later, in the middle of the storm, they found a trapped minivan, a mother and two kids inside, water rising fast. Without hesitation, Jack dove in, fighting against the surge. His body screamed in protest, his lungs burned. But he reached the door, pried it open, and pulled the children out one by one.